NBC News legal analyst Misty Marris joins me now for more on this. Misty, thanks for being here. So can the president just go to the Supreme Court? I'm sure he can, but do we know, has this happened with other presidents?
So there is nothing to stop him. There's no rule that says that he cannot go, but he will be the first sitting president to actually be at a Supreme Court argument relating to an issue that comes from the executive branch while he is the president of the United States. So it certainly would be new. It would be a new precedent, but there isn't anything legally that stops him from attending. Of course, SCOTUS, the justices, set the parameters for what the court looks like when it comes to oral arguments, but there are no rules that they've set thus far. They've talked about the time that oral arguments will go on, how much time each side gets, nothing about what the president has said and whether or not he can come or not.
The use of the word unprecedented, it goes right along with this president, so would not be surprised there. But what happens if the court actually ends up ruling against Trump on these tariffs? Where does it go from there?
So at that point, then it would mean that these tariffs would have to be rolled back, because the whole crux of the issue is whether or not the International Emergency Economic Powers Act is something the president can invoke. Is there an emergency situation that falls into the statute? And whether or not the judiciary actually has the ability to even question the president on that. And so if the Supreme Court says that the president does not have this power when it comes to tariffs, it's going to be a bit messy, because we know that these tariffs have already been at play. There's a stay in rolling them back as of now, but it will mean that tariffs will be left to Congress to make that determination. So it's certainly going to be something very, very difficult to deal with logistically, but there will be clarity. This case is of national and international interest, and there's a need for the Supreme Court to step in and say whether or not this falls under executive powers or whether or not this lies with Congress.
A lot on the line with this one, too. Misty, we were just speaking with Kelly O'Donnell about this Ronald Reagan ad that Canada had put out. Mr. Trump saying that Canada was trying to influence the court with that ad. That seems like a pretty big accusation. Are there any legal implications involved with an accusation like that?
No, I mean, that seems like, as Kelly said, that there's a lot playing out in the public sphere, which are leverage points for these negotiations with respect to trade and tariffs. But from the legal perspective, when it comes to the Supreme Court, they are limited to take into consideration what is actually in the court's appellate record. They can't look outside of that record and take anything that's happening in the public sphere as part of their decision to rule for or against this particular case. So I think it seems like a bit more of conjecture and probably relates a little bit more to those leverage points than it does to the legal merits of the case.
Yeah, there are a lot of both of those things happening right now and sort of all the time these days. Misty Marris, thanks for helping us understand it all.
Thank you.